Here's Brody Brazil.
You know, here in 2025, sometimes you see a collaboration between two entities, and it just makes sense, right? Like, oh, this brand and that brand, or this person and that person, they were meant for each other. You knew about both of them, and it only makes sense that they work on something together. But in this case, I think we're all familiar with Delta Airlines as well as DraftKings. But when you put them together, I think the question has to be asked, is what they're thinking about even legal? And the answer to that is right now, no, it's not legal yet, at least in the way you'd be thinking about it. Let me try and explain exactly what happened here, because this was kind of out of left field the other day. I wanted to cover it here on the YouTube channel. This was a Delta press release, but it also came right after a press conference that the Delta CEO, Ed Bastian, did at CES. That's the Consumer Electronics Show down in Las Vegas they have at the beginning of every calendar year. Ed said this, quote, "From fantasy sports to online adventures, gaming has become a regular part of the daily lives of millions of our customers, and you shouldn't have to hit pause just because you're in the sky. Our partnership with DraftKings will build on the game's portfolio we already offered today via Delta Sync and our seatback screens while using the deep expertise that Jason Robbins, DraftKings co-founder and CEO, and his team have developed over the past decade." So a partnership with DraftKings, that's all that's really detailed there. We honestly don't know much more than that. So here's the things we don't know. Like, what is this partnership? We know no specific details. Is this a deal? Is this something in writing, or is this a discussion? Like, a partnership could be conversation. That's also a partnership so far, nothing official. Are we talking about games, or are we talking about gambling? Are we talking about rewards of prizes or rewards of monetary value, like getting money back for winning a bet? Are we talking about fantasy sports, which basically is legal everywhere, or are we talking about betting on probably sports, which is not legal everywhere? It's also not legal while you're flying. More on that in just a second. And how about this? Is this via the Delta app? Like, while you're on the plane, you can do this, or is it as part of a seatback experience? Is there a touchscreen? I don't even know if I've been on a Delta flight with a touchscreen recently. Are any of those seatback screens touchscreens? I'm not sure how that works, or where the controller would be, or maybe it's in an airport lounge. So we don't know hardly any of the details other than a partnership. So all of this right now has to be speculation, and that's probably on purpose from their point of this. There's just one issue that we do know, that we have known for quite some time. Under the Gambling Devices Act of 1962, well before I was born, probably well before you were born, also known as the Johnson Act, gambling is illegal on U.S. commercial aircraft. Now, there was a time where for international flights, you could gamble, and I think there's different stories and rules on a boat, a ship, if you're in international waters. But let's keep it very clear to this right now. Gambling is illegal on U.S. commercial aircraft. Okay, so let's go back to some other things, though, that we also know. A Department of Transportation study from 1996, so a while ago, like the technology wasn't fully developed back then like it is now, but a 96 study found that airlines could make more than $1 million per aircraft every year if they offered gambling, which is the equivalent of well over $1.3 billion annually in today's valuation of money for an airline that's the size of Delta. Again, the $1 million per aircraft per year, take it or leave it. If it sounds big or sounds small, whatever, but what you need to know is that could be a $1.3 billion boost in today's money if gambling was allowed on every Delta flight. That according to morningbrew.com. Here's some more perspective from viewfromthewing.com. Gambling used to be legal for flights to and from the United States, so international flights like I mentioned before. In fact, in 1981, Singapore Airlines engaged in a 2-month test offering actual slot machines on the Singapore to San Francisco route. They proved so popular that the machines in the back of the cabin, think about that, you had to go to the back of the plane, caused egress and service issues with too many passengers congregating. So there was too big of a line when they tried to push the beverage cart through or do food service or whatever the flight attendants were trying to do. Too many people in the back of the plane wanted to sit and pull the slot machine while the flight was going on. It was just too much of an inconvenience. So It has been tried before. I can't even imagine that. They were probably also smoking on that flight too. That's also from viewfromthewing.com. One more from that same site here. Delta, they say, is going to offer in-flight gaming without monetary bets, which are illegal. So that's interesting, right? The law says you can't gamble for money. That means giving and selling access to Delta customers so that DraftKings can build its client base that will then gamble with real money on the ground. So you get them in the air gambling for frequent flyer miles, for a free drink on the flight, for how about paying for the actual flight? Now, is that part legal? That's something of monetary value. See, there's a lot of gray area here, and we should also be clear. With the new administration taking over in the White House, there could be some entire drastic rule changes already underway. More on that in just a second when I get to my takeaways. Maybe they know something already about this. Here are the takeaways. Number one, the ethics of gambling staring you in the face for multiple hours consecutively while you're bored, while you're on a flight, while you're tired. Maybe you've had a couple drinks and, ooh, look what's staring me right in the face from the seat back in front of me. That little screen that's all of a sudden encouraging me, hey, you're watching this game on TV. DraftKings wants you to bet on it. Some people can't say no. Some people also have a gambling problem and they didn't ask for this. Now, I understand it's not much different than somebody with a drinking problem and the beverage cart comes by and, well, there's vodka and alcohol and beer, and that may not be conducive to somebody with an alcohol problem. But gambling problem is not that much different than an alcohol problem if you think about the addictive nature of it. The lure of, again, hey, forget money. Let's try and win you this flight for free. You want to try? And if you lose, well, then it might cost you something. But again, I don't know how they navigate this gray area. So it doesn't necessarily have to be for money. They could do it while in flight for airline perks and privileges, and you gain this and you get this. Maybe that's all they want, is they want you to sign up and there's no way to lose. There's only ways to win. But now you're a DraftKings, I don't want to say a partner, but now you're a DraftKings customer. That's what I meant to say. You're now a DraftKings customer. So they're building their base of customers from people who want to try this while in flight. This would not be made public, in my opinion, by DraftKings or by Delta Airlines, respectively, two giant companies in their fields, right? Delta's way bigger than DraftKings, but Delta's huge. DraftKings is huge. They wouldn't go down this road and leak this out there at CES of all places, unless it was, number one, either in the works, or number two, being heavily pushed, and announcing it like this adds some momentum for their push. So again, with the change of government upcoming and a new White House and potentially some new rules, maybe gambling all of a sudden is entirely legal on an airline flight this year, next year, or soon down the road. And I think the last thing you got to think about here in terms of a takeaway, this is more of just the human sense. Now, there's one thing I do enjoy about flying on an airplane, and that is people can be on their phones, and sometimes they turn the volume up if they're watching something, which is kind of rude, but nobody can be talking loudly on the phone. You can't do phone calls in flight. It's kind of a nice quiet space, but imagine if all of a sudden you've got a bunch of people betting on sports. Now, we know what this looks like, a sports bar in the sky. I don't mind going to a sports bar if I was intending to go to a sports bar. It's loud. People are yelling. They're all watching the same thing. Imagine being on a flight while a bowl game is going on that a bunch of people bet on, right? It's going to be a totally different atmosphere in the cabin of that aircraft. Even if 5 people are doing this, it's going to be different, you'd have to imagine. Do you really want to create that environment in an airplane cabin? Again, no criticisms of a sports bar, but a sports bar in an airplane, those are two things I didn't necessarily want crossing paths. Ooh, look how the jet just flew right in there. Bonus points, by the way, down in the comments, if you can name what model and type of aircraft that is, manufacturer and type of aircraft that is. Does it even exist yet? Fun trivia for all of you aviation nerds out there. Is this legal? Not right now, not entirely, but maybe somehow, some way, maybe in the future it is. Delta and DraftKings. Who would have thought that would be the collaboration here in 2025? Let me know what you think about all this in the comments section below. Also, while you're down there, thumbs up for me, please, on this video. That greatly helps this video, this channel, and what I'm trying to do here on YouTube. Also, one more favor to ask. If you're not already, please go down there and hit that subscribe button. That way I can definitely see you back here next time.